Hello! This video coming at you in 3 parts. Oh, that's 6. 3 parts. Okay, so this video is looking at 2 chapters. That would be The Servant of Lord Voldemort and The Dementor's Kiss. And The Dementor's Kiss is an oddly short chapter. Like, it really is sort of this segue chapter of problems, and then we'll get to the solution of the problems in the next one. So, part 1, the self-obsession of Severus Snape. I like the movie presentation of the scene so much better. Because at least in that one, Snape isn't a total dinglehopper dick. In this book version, that's not true. He's a dick. A dick, a dick, a dick, a dick, a dick. Because everything in that moment becomes about what he went through. And as we've discussed before, this is not how you can look at the world and serve justice. For him, it becomes about revenge, and getting revenge for what happened in his childhood. And I will never underwrite that. I don't like any of the Marauders for what they did to Snape. What they chose to do is unforgivable. But really, Snape then becomes a bully as well, and that's just as unforgivable. And in this moment, in this honest-to-God moment, where you're pretty sure these kids are gonna get murdered, or at least anyone in that situation is coming in thinking that, these kids are pretty sure at this point in time they're gonna get murdered, because we haven't actually won their trust fully yet. Snape comes in and blames the kids just as much as he blames Sirius and Remus. Like, it actually starts not with Sirius, but Remus as the werewolf, obviously dark and helping his friend the convict. And then when Hermione steps in trying to be logical, Snape's like, yeah, no, you're looking at suspension. At the best. They've effectively been kidnapped. Like, that's not how you deal with this situation. Except for Severus it is, because in this moment, this is his absolute victory, and he is then falling into the exact same trap that Tom Riddle does. The diary form of Tom Riddle, at least. The interest in gloating. The interest in saying, no, I've got everything figured out. And all this other information is unimportant. Because, oddly enough, it becomes not about Sirius, but Remus. It becomes about the werewolf aspect. And yes, there's certainly the want for revenge for Sirius almost getting him killed. But again, he's not aiming first at Sirius, he's aiming first at Remus. He doesn't tie Sirius up, he ties Remus up. Like, there's this really odd switch that says that there is a deeper bias against dark creatures in Severus than we've necessarily seen before. Which is odd, because he's certainly been providing Wolfsbane with relatively no complaint. But really, his plan is to march the werewolf to the castle, despite the fact that he is one of the few people to directly recognize that it's the full moon. Like, everyone forgets about it. Except Severus actually directly mentions it. He says, I went to give you your potion. You weren't there, found the map, la-da-da-da-da-da-da. Oh yeah, let's just march the convict and the werewolf out into the full moon with these kids. Like, Severus doesn't care. In fact, I'm pretty sure he's doing it on purpose. Because he really wants the excuse to kill them both. And if he doesn't have the excuse to do it that way, then sure, he will easily as hell hand them over to the Dementors knowing they're gonna get kissed. Like, it's not even, let's hand him over to the government so the government can do that. Now, he wants to do it himself. To the point where he gets just as obsessed as Sirius does with Peter in this moment. And they become far closer in their personalities than either of them would like. And in fact, Rowling brings attention to this when she states that Harry couldn't tell which face held more hatred. Both of them are acting very aggressive, and the thing is, we haven't seen Sirius be anything else but this. Severus is usually composed. An asshole, yes, but composed. And in this moment, he loses all composure because he lets himself get so focused on the one thing he desperately wants, and that is to kill both of these people. And it's sort of interesting because when Harry blocks his way, he tells Harry, I just saved your life. You should be thanking me on bended knee. Yeah. Did you want to thank James Potter when he saved yours? It's actually exactly the situation that he was in. James tormented him and then saved his life, and no, he was not going to be grateful. So why the hell should Harry be grateful to the man that's tormented him? And they're not even on equal terms. This is somebody he should be able to trust. And in fact, it's this moment when he sees the loss of control that Harry himself decides to actually take control. And he continues to maintain that control through this entire scene. The kids get frightened. And all three of them hit him with Expelliarmus, and like, he's out for the rest of the scene. And in some ways, it's this moment of good for you. Because even in their fright, they went for a disarming move. They did not try and do more damage. They accidentally did because all three of them in their panic hit him with the same spell and overpowered it. But that was not their intention. Their intention was merely to try and de-escalate the situation. And that says a lot for the fact that this is a man who's fully admitted to wanting to kill two other people in the room. This is a man who's lost control past what the escaped convict has actually lost control with. Because at least he's only aiming for what they think is a rat, which is possibly justified. Sirius and Remus are willing to explain it. Or at least Remus is, and Sirius is willing to actually let Remus keep control in that moment. Severus isn't. Severus wants all of the control, and for the worst thing possible, and everyone else is like, ah, hell nah. So you actually have to be careful about these situations. If you let your emotions get away from you, then you're going to cause more problems than you're going to solve. And Severus does in this moment. Flashbacks, no. Okay. Part 2. The begging of Peter Pettigrew. in this moment, we discover everything that Remus and Sirius have been saying is in fact correct. And then we get introduced to Peter Pettigrew, the fourth Marauder. And he's probably, in knowing that he's a Marauder, very little of what we expected. We expected more outgoing, more intelligent. Maybe that's us going back, having read everything, and got to know all the other Marauders more. But Peter Pettigrew was not it. A man that looks very much like his animal form. And he's got this way of talking. And it discusses every single one of them. It would make sense, I think, for everybody except maybe Hermione, in the grand scheme of things. Because, of course, Sirius and Remus know the full story. They know they've been, pardon me, they know they've been betrayed by Peter. So yes, they're going to be disgusted with him, especially when he's groveling. Ron has very directly been tricked by Peter Pettigrew. And like he said, I let you sleep in my bed. Which then points to the question of, with Fred and George having the Marauders map, they would have seen Peter Pettigrew. We know he shows up on it, because Remus saw him. And he got the Order of Merlin, first class, after his death. That means Peter Pettigrew's name has got to be relatively well known. So it becomes a question of what Fred and George saw and what they know. Was Peter Pettigrew a lot like Harry's parents, and they were sort of swept away in this rush of boy who lived phenomenon? Did they sort of just give him the Order of the Merlin and then just like, okay, yeah, cool. Boy who lived. Because he's actually alive. So that's a bit of a question, but it's not the main focus here. The focus is that Peter doesn't try and stand up for himself. He tries to get everybody else to stand up for him. And this makes everyone deeply uncomfortable. Because as both a Marauder and a Gryffindor, and also as the servant of Lord Voldemort, you're expecting somebody to be more proactive. But what it is this realization that there are all types of people in the world, and all types of people who could be good or bad. And it's this sudden realization that maybe not everything is actually black and white. Because you want to think, obviously, if you went with Lord Voldemort, that you're evil. Especially when you directly betrayed somebody. But then Peter points out the fact that what would you do to keep living? What would you do to keep yourself and yours alive? And if that's to back the person with the most power, it becomes something of a question of whether or not that's necessarily a bad thing. But it's also, right now, wrapped up in somebody that we can't take this question seriously with, because he's just so mewling. Instead, we get this person that wants everyone's protection. And he's willing to lie, cheat, and steal to do it, but not fight for him. Every time somebody rejects him, he just goes on to the next person. So, in a lot of ways, I can understand the disgust that everyone's feeling in this moment. But I can also understand Harry's choice to show him mercy. Because this is a question of how you treat those who are directly weaker than you. This is Dobby all over again. When you're in a situation where you can't fight, what choices do you make? Where do you turn? And I think Harry's seeing this. But he's also recognizing that, unfortunately, you're still going to be responsible for your actions. And if those actions get other people killed, then you're going to have to recognize that. Dobby at least could. He recognized that he hurt Harry in his attempts to protect him. But Peter tries not to. Peter distinctly tries to look at everything but what he is guilty of. And Harry has to look at it all and say, yes, you are guilty, but if Remus and Sirius kill you right now, they are guilty of that. And they don't deserve to be, and certainly not for you, which is exactly what he tells them. I don't think my father would want you two to become killers for this asshole. And a big part of that is because Peter's not willing to fight for himself. Until he is. We get this groveling person. And then he sees his opportunity and he takes it. And he hits Ron and he hits Crookshanks. And then he runs. And this is somebody who actually survives for most of the books. Like, we're not going to see him taken down until the 7th book, and that says that this groveling personality is hiding a hell of a lot. And that becomes something important for us to remember. Is we can't underestimate these people. Even this sniveling Peter Pettigrew has some hidden strength in him. We have to remember, he was a Gryffindor too. It's just a question of where that bravery is applied. And for Peter, it's self-survival. And can we really say that's necessarily a bad thing? Okay, and part 3. The Dementor's Kiss is really... it's an action chapter. There's not a whole lot of talking in it. It's really a whole lot of running and spell casting. But it's still got some hints of pieces in here. Sirius's preoccupation with Peter Pettigrew, which is a lot like Severus's preoccupation with Remus and Sirius. There's a bit of an issue with both Harry and Hermione leaving Ron unconscious and Snape unconscious when they happen to know there's a werewolf running around. That's a bit of a concern. Harry, it's understandable because he also knows that Sirius is in trouble. And then Hermione, it's a question of okay, who do you take care of in this moment? which is gotta be a super difficult choice. Especially since then they both sort of prove to be rather inadequate for this moment. And you can't blame Hermione on this one, because she hasn't been doing any of the training that Harry has. And you really can't suddenly produce a Patronus in the face of, like, a ton of Dementors, when you've never even produced a Patronus before. And in fact, I think Harry handles this okay. Which then makes the question of Harry's happiness. Because it's true, he can't form a proper Patronus, but he actually has had a relatively difficult time doing so. And in fact, the only time that he really does, it's not even a real Dementor. So he hasn't faced an actual Dementor with a Patronus properly. Certainly not a herd, flock of Dementors? Group of Dementors with a Patronus. And he actually managed just to actually summon some mist. So I don't think we should necessarily call Harry inadequate in this moment. He certainly achieved something that we necessarily, the rest of us probably couldn't. Most of us would be with Hermione and Sirius just passed out on the ground. Harry's still up and fighting. In fact, Harry stays up even after the Dementors have been sent away, because he can distinctly see a form patting the Dementor that comes to save them. So he is conscious up to that point, which is interesting because he's one of the few people that's ever seen and survived what is underneath a Dementor's hood. Like, he was directly about to be kissed, and he's managed to stay conscious through this entire thing. Plus, summon at least something of a Patronus. All on the idea that he'll get to live with Sirius Black, who, until about half a chapter ago, he honestly didn't trust. Because there was a point in that previous chapter where he was like, shit, I shouldn't have knocked out Severus. He was freaking right. So what's Harry's situation that the happy thought that he actually is able to at least semi-use is, I get to live with this complete stranger. And that's a happy thought. I get to get away from the Dursleys. And that's a happy thought. We can't forget, as extraordinary as this trio is and the adventures they get into, that this is a boy that lived in the cupboard under the stairs for the first 10 years of his life. This is a boy who deserves just as much as Tom Riddle or Severus do to be angry and bitter. And he puts that all into a happy thought of, I'm almost out of this. I have to stay alive because I am almost out of this. And that's the interesting thing, is because Tom Riddle, Severus Snape, and Harry Potter are considered the three Lost Boys. And there are certainly different ways you could turn out. And Harry's focus is, I'm almost out of this. And then everything would be okay. And I think that says a lot about him. Okay, so we are almost done. Prisoner of Azkaban. We have 2 chapters to go, a video each, so that's 2 more videos. Hermione's secret video will probably be up Wednesday. And then this next Sunday will be our final video. And over this next week, I'm gonna figure out sort of my schedule moving forward with the Goblet of Fire. Possibly getting it out of the library, simply because my poor copy. I might take a bit of a break, but right now I'm not quite sure. So I'll let you know that for sure next Sunday. Until then, I'm going to keep reading, and I hope you do too. Bye!